silver thread. In a quiet little house nestled among sleepy rooftops lived a young black cat named Lumo. His fur was the color of midnight, and his eyes were like the bright green emeralds. One night, Lumo couldn't sleep. The moon was a perfect, shining pearl in the dark sky, casting long, silvery shadows across the bedroom floor. He sat on the windowsill, watching the world outside hold its breath. That's when he saw it. A single, shimmering thread of moonlight, finer than a spider's web, drifted down from the sky. It wasn't like ordinary light. This thread pulsed with a soft, gentle glow, weaving through the branches of the old oak tree before landing ever so softly on the garden path below. Lumo's curiosity tingled from the tips of his whiskers to the end of his tail. He had to know what it was. Without a sound, he leaped from the sill. Scene 2, the whispering garden. Lumo landed silently on the cool, damp grass of the garden. The air here was different, thick with the sweet scent of night-blooming jasmine and damp earth. The silver thread lay before him, glowing faintly on the stone path. As he drew closer, he realized the garden wasn't as quiet as he thought. He could hear tiny, bell-like chimes like dewdrops falling on the flower petals. The roses, usually deep red, now glowed with a soft, pearly light, and the lavender bushes swayed as if whispering secrets to each other. Everything seemed alive, humming with a quiet magic. Lumo took a hesitant step forward, his paws barely making a sound. The thread pulsed again, a silent invitation. With a deep breath, he reached out a paw and gently, ever so gently, touched the shimmering strand. Scene 3, the moon-petal path. The moment Lumo's paw touched the silver thread, the world dissolved into light. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't in his garden anymore. He stood at the beginning of a pathway made entirely of glowing silver petals. They felt soft and cool beneath his paws, like freshly fallen snow. The path stretched into a forest of towering, luminous mushrooms, their caps painted with swirling patterns of blue and violet. The air was filled with the gentle hum of unseen things and a faint, sweet smell, like honey and starlight. Fireflies with soft, pulsating lights danced between the giant mushroom stems, creating shifting constellations in the dim light. Lumo looked back, but his garden was gone. There was only the moon-petal path, leading deeper into this strange, beautiful world. He took his first step into the unknown. Scene 4, the crystal stream. Lumo followed the moon-petal path until the gentle hum grew louder, mingling with the sound of flowing water. He soon arrived at the bank of a winding stream. But this was no ordinary stream. The water was a clear, liquid crystal, and instead of pebbles, the bed was lined with softly glowing star-shaped stones. They cast flickering reflections onto the undersides of the giant mushroom caps, making the whole forest shimmer. Little fish with fins like spun glass swam in lazy circles, their scales catching the light. The water didn't babble. It sang a low, soothing melody that seemed to vibrate right through Lumo's paws. He knelt by the bank, mesmerized, and dipped a paw into the cool, singing water. A ripple of pure silver light spread out from where he touched it, making the starstones below shine even brighter. Scene 5, the oracle of the glow moss drawn by the stream's melody. Lumo walked along its crystal bank. The path led him to a clearing where a huge, ancient tree stood. Its bark was dark and gnarled, but its branches were draped with curtains of moss that glowed with a soft, green light. The air here felt old and wise. As Lumo approached, the moss began to shimmer and pulse, its light brightening and dimming in a slow, rhythmic pattern, like a gentle heartbeat. A deep, calming voice, not made of words but of pure feeling, echoed in Lumo's mind. It wasn't scary, it was comforting, like a purr. The voice seemed to know him, welcoming him to this dream world. The glowing moss swirled into shifting shapes and patterns, telling a silent story of the moon, the stars, and the ancient magic that flowed through this land. Scene 6, the field of floating lanterns leaving the wise old tree behind. Lumo followed the path as it sloped gently upward. He emerged from the mushroom forest into a vast, open meadow. But instead of grass, the ground was covered in a carpet of soft, deep blue clover. And floating just above it were thousands of delicate, flower-shaped lanterns. Each lantern glowed with a warm, golden light drifting lazily on the still night air. They moved in a slow, silent dance, rising and falling like gentle breaths. Some would drift close to Lumo, the light warming his fur, before floating away again. The sheer number of them was breathtaking, a silent festival of light under a sky filled with unfamiliar, glittering constellations. Lumo felt so small, yet so peaceful, walking through this endless field of floating lights. It was a sight he knew he would never forget. Scene 7. The Star Sweeper. As Lumo wandered through the lantern field, he noticed a figure in the distance. It was a tall, slender creature made of woven moonlight, with long, graceful limbs and kind, sparkling eyes. It carried a broom made of comet tails and was gently sweeping the ground. But it wasn't sweeping dust. With each graceful sweep, tiny, fallen stars, no bigger than grains of sand, would lift into the air and fly back up into the night sky, finding their place among the constellations. The creature hummed a quiet, cosmic tune as it worked, a melody that sounded like distant nebulas spinning. It noticed Lumo and gave him a slow, gentle nod, its smile as warm as a distant sun. It didn't speak, but Lumo understood its job was to keep the night sky tidy and bright. Scene 8. The Bridge of Dreams. The Star Sweeper pointed a silvery finger towards the edge of the meadow where a chasm of deep, velvety darkness lay. Spanning the gap was a bridge, but it was unlike any Lumo had ever seen. It seemed to be woven from solidified dreams, swirling colors of twilight, wisps of forgotten memories, and glimmers of happy thoughts. As Lumo stepped onto it, the bridge felt both solid and weightless. With each step, faint, happy whispers and snippets of gentle laughter echoed around him, like ghosts of joyful moments. Looking down, he saw not a bottom, but swirling galaxies and nebulae, a universe of sleep unfolding beneath his paws. The bridge was safe and sturdy, guiding him gently across the beautiful, silent darkness, carrying him toward the final part of his journey. Scene 9. The Moon's Reflection. After crossing the Bridge of Dreams, Lumo found himself on a small, circular island floating in the sea of night. In the center of the island was a perfectly still, round pool. The water was as black as polished obsidian, and in its surface the moon was reflected with perfect clarity. It wasn't a reflection of the moon in the sky above, but the moon itself, seemingly captured in the water. It pulsed with a soft, silver light, the source of all the magic he had seen. Lumo sat at the pool's edge, gazing into its depths. He saw his own reflection, but his green eyes shone with the light of the stars he had just seen. He felt a deep sense of peace and belonging wash over him, as if this magical world was now a part of him. Scene 10. The gentle awakening. Lumo stared into the moon pool, his eyelids growing heavy. The silver light from the water was so soothing, so calming. He felt a gentle pull, like a soft tide drawing him back. He closed his eyes for just a moment, and when he opened them again, he wasn't on the floating island. He was curled up in his favorite spot on the windowsill back in his very own bedroom. The first hints of dawn were painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. The moon was fading into the morning light. Was it all a dream? Lumo stretched, a contented purr rumbling in his chest. As he looked out at the garden, he saw a single, tiny petal glowing with a faint silver light resting on the grass before it faded away. Lumo smiled, curled into a ball, and finally drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep.